The president is on the clock with the American people. New Fox News polling shows the president's approval rating taking a hit as gas prices rise from a month ago. 64% of registered voters disapprove of the president's performance on Iran. 71% of people disapprove of the handling of inflation. 66% disapprove of the performance on the economy. Now, all these are connected by oil, which can put pressure on increased prices. And that's why there's so much attention on the Strait of Hormuz.
Trump's disapproval ratings are now higher than they have ever been across both of his terms. And that's not coming from CNN or the Huffington Post. That's coming from Fox News.
There is no floor for Donald Trump. The floor beneath him keeps collapsing and he falls down to a new record low. And we can see it right here. Look at this. Trump's net approval march. All two-term pollster lows. Quinnipiac, the best of the bunch, 20 points underwater. Yahoo, YouGov, 21 points below underwater. Verisight, 23 points below underwater. And the new Reuters Ipsos poll, 26 points underwater. All of these are term two record lows. And in the aggregate of polls, he is also at a term two low.
Trump's approval rating has dropped to 41%. Now, 59% of registered voters disapprove of him. This is the highest it has ever been under both terms. Republicans, their approval even fell to now a low of 84%, down from 92% for their cult leader. Among Democrats, 95% disapprove. And among independents, only 25% approve. 75% disapprove of him. Now, if you take this into historical context, some polls even have him as low as 36%. When presidents start dropping into those numbers, it is during moments of crisis of their presidency. Take, for example, Nixon. Nixon had to resign when he was dipping into the high 20s. Trump's not that far off. Same with Bush, the 2008 financial crisis. His approval rating had also dropped to the high 20s. Trump is just barely hanging on. He's so close to those moments of approval rating that show the overwhelming disapproval of the public, kind of forced the issue, forcing Nixon to resign. This, of course, does not come as a surprise. The Iranian war and really the lack of planning, him changing day by day within the same press conference, even the plan for the war, and among Republicans themselves, division over the plan. Nancy Mace going on TV saying that she disapproves of any ground forces in the war. Republicans talking about perhaps they would force a vote of Congress if ground forces are used, and it appears that Trump is doing it. Between that, the handling of immigration, how unpopular ICE is on the streets, the tariffs, small businesses hurting, farmers wanting bailouts, Trump's presidency is a complete and utter failure, and that's showing in the polls.
The daily, war snuff film briefing, there was more to that story than he likes to see what's getting blown up. There was concern that he was not taking in all of the dimensions of this war. And some of that you might think is unfair criticism. I know you like to put it on the libs and that it's just us and Orange Man bad. And no matter what he was going to do, we were going to hate it. True. But the Roger Wicker and Mike Rogers, both Republicans, the chairs of the Homeland Security committees in the Senate and the House, just came out of their briefing and they said, we need to know more about what's going on, what the options are, and why they're being considered. The White House continues to not make a strong enough case to the people who they need to go out there and sell this thing to the American public and then to the American public themselves. And that's why support for this, and I should note again that this is the least popular military incursion, not excursion, an incursion in modern American history. So take that Desert Storm. The approval for this incursion is down in CBS, Reuters, and Quinnipiac. And
Quinnipiac.
This is the thing. It's so funny. You try to deflect.
But what are the polls going to... War isn't popular.
That's not true. War used to be popular.
Of course, Trump himself is questioning voting because now it appears that voters aren't happy with him. Of course, we have the SAVE Act, which is not just a voter identification act, but is a voter collection of information act. Perhaps that's the worst part of the bill, is having federal voter data and the ability to purge people from the data rolls or the voter rolls. But in addition, we have an attack on mail-in ballots. I mean, Trump has been talking about how there's so much fraud in them. The Supreme Court even just took up a case around mail-in ballots about whether or not a Mississippi law of all states is valid because it allows the counting of ballots after Election Day, despite the fact that they are postmarked on Election Day. Well, we're still waiting to hear the Supreme Court decision, which probably won't come in June. But in the meantime, of all people, Trump himself just voted by mail. He said that it was because he's the president, despite the fact that he was actually in Palm Beach County over 2 weekends, but didn't bother to go in person. Perhaps because it is convenient to vote by mail. Perhaps because he wanted to vote and this was the easiest way to do it. But for like everything else, rules for me are different for rules for thee. And he likes the convenience factor, the ease of being able to make your choice and your voice heard by mail-in ballot. But at the same time, he says that there's fraud. If he was so worried about fraud with mail-in ballots, you would think he wouldn't trust his own mail-in ballot. But this is actually not about fraud with mail-in ballot, just like the SAFE Act isn't about fraud with voters. The reason we know this is because county electors across the country are very good at weeding out fraud, as well as the DOJ in the past has investigated any fraud. And we're talking about just dozens, not even hundreds, of actual voter fraud in the country. Now, this is about limiting people to vote, or perhaps limiting certain people to vote, because mail-in ballot helps people who work. President, maybe a job, he's got a lot more flexibility than most people who don't have time to take off time between their two jobs, who can't have the flexibility of personal time to go in person, stand in line perhaps. That difficulty is what makes mail-in ballot easy and accessible for people. And that's exactly why the Republicans and the GOP don't like it.
You know, I would say that this is the most troublesome sign that I have seen for the President of the United States and the Republican Party so far. What are we talking about? Well, let's take a look here. Voters on Trump and the cost of living. You go back when he was reelected back in October of 2024. He was beating Kamala Harris by 3 points on the cost of living, right? Look at his net approval rating now. Woo! Down underwater we go. His net approval at a record low, 41 points below water. You can't win when you're at 41 points below water on the cost of living. Kamala Harris couldn't win. The Democratic Party couldn't win. And I'm here to tell you that there's a better chance that I root for the New York Yankees than Donald Trump and the Republican Party winning when he's 41 points below water.
This was March 12th to March 16th. We could see even more, gas prices rise and the prices go up in the coming days and weeks with the Iran war. So this number could get even worse. What about independence?
Yeah, what about independence? You think this 41 points below water is bad? Take a look at independence. It's even worse. I mean, 60 points underwater when it comes to Trump and the cost of living among independents. Again, a record low. You go back to October of 2024. He was winning on this issue over Kamala Harris by 11 points. Look at that switcheroo. That is a 71-point switcheroo in the wrong direction for Donald Trump when we're coming to the cost of living and independence. And this, my dear friends, is just a political nightmare waiting to happen for the Republican Party come the midterm elections.
I mean, why?
New Midas merch. Head to store.MidasTouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.MidasTouch.com.